the registration, the networking and tea, coffee and the registration is from 10 and 10:30. You are requested to please adhere to the time so that we can start the program tomorrow on time. May I now request Mr. Mukherjee to please come to the dais. May I also request Mr. Shaunak Shaha and Mr. Shutanu Ghosh to please come to the dais. Sir, may we begin the session? I'll request Mr. Mukherjee to please begin the session.
Professor Datto is on the way, and we are running against time. So what I thought that we can start the session when Professor Datto arrives here, then he will carry forward. This particular session is going to talk about power from conventional and renewable sources in the world still dominated by fossil fuel. In fact, some of the issues of what is the possibility of renewable generation, renewable energy, what is the possibility of the fossil fuel generation, what are the compulsion of the developing countries like us, and some of the developed countries which are mainly dependent on their coal, how they are going to live in future, how much they are going to depend on the available fuel, I think have been deliberated quite a lot right from the inaugural session. Here, what we are going to address, that some of the issues which have been deliberated is at a very, very macro level, nothing specific to India. It's at, I would not say global, but it is more of a earth level. This particular session, we are going to do it at the level of India. What are the opportunities? What are the options? What are the constraints which are required to be addressed in taking care of renewable power generation in India? Also, what are the mitigation options for the Indian power generation? What are the issues, and those issues, how we are going to mitigate? I am not going to take more time, so may I request Mr. Shutanu Ghosh just give his.
Chairman, the last session, just the one previous to us, was really philosophical and bordering sometimes on the emotional, which was very good because I think that kept all of us awake after a filled-up tummy. This one will probably be, there'll be no philosophy, there'll be no emotion, but it's going to be absolutely hard nut case technocracy. With that backdrop and with your permission, being a hardcore technocrat, we'll get into some of the issues that I wish to flag current day on mitigation options in power generation. There are a number of slides, but I think we are not doing too well on time, so I would like to... Okay, so you want me to do a balancing act here. So, yeah, so I'll try and focus on the important ones. That's the present power generation scenario of India. As you can see, that this has been completely downloaded from the net. I will talk a little more, over here. Once we just look at, the total of thermal, all right? Now, if you take a look at that, and, we did see, in this particular thing, it becomes much more important. Now, although our Shondipan Chakraborty, our speaker in the earlier session, talked about how renewables, would probably try and replace non-renewables by the year 2030, I would tend to agree. We had a discussion over lunch. Arunda was there. I would like to more agree with what Mr. Alok Mukherjee had to say. If you look at, this is not my statistic at all. This is the All India generating installed capacity as of current. 36/2013 is the date. And can you see the bars? This is thermal. The only additive I am adding here is that 90% of this is that great thing coal. 90%. And look at the others. This is stark reality. This is reality. And if we are going to dream of an utopia, neglecting this reality, then I think we are going to go wrong right at the very beginning. Yes, this needs to be enhanced. This needs to be enhanced. Oh, I don't know about this. France has banned this. This certainly needs to be enhanced, but this is reality, sirs, madam. So let's keep this in mind as we go forward. Otherwise, we will be skewed right from the very beginning. We cannot do away with coal, for God's sake. And we cannot do away with thermal, if you're in India. Again, similar kind. Look at the peak demand versus the overall demand. Now, what is the basic problem here? The basic problem is that our thermal is to hydro mix is extremely skewed. It is, I think, around 97:3. And that's what leads us to the peak deficit, or you feel the load shedding when it happens between 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. is when you have the shortfall in your peak supply. And then what do you try and do? You try and run your machines at much more enhanced frequencies, which is much not at all desirable. The tremendous requirement of coal for the power sector. Okay? These are all in tetrawatt hours. And the coal sourcing is millions of tons. And this is exactly how the curve is going ahead. This is again in synchronicity with the power demand that I just showed you. I'm no coal lover, but I believe in reality. Coal reserves in India. This is by state. There's only one telling point that I'd like to make here. I don't know why the Almighty really designed it in this manner, but it's true for India. Unfortunately, most of our most of our rich mineral deposits are overlain by the richest of forests. It's true across many, many, many places, states of India. I may just want to pick out the 2 M's out of the 3, Madhya Pradesh, Meghalaya. Which makes advanced technology as regards mining, I'm just stressing it going into mining for just a moment since I'm talking about mining reserves here of coal. It makes it imperative that we get into advanced technology as far as mining is concerned, principally underground mining. Because if you're going to go in for open cast, you will be denuding the rich, very rich medicinal forests at many places in Madhya Pradesh as well as Meghalaya if you want to extract the mineral below. Indian coal characteristics, we all know the ash is very high, but luckily the sulfur is very low. Somehow I think the calorific value here is a little exaggerated. Although these figures have been taken from authentic sources, but I think our normal grades of coal would give calorific value much lower, I think, than what you see here. All right. These are the standard air pollution that comes out of power plants. Water pollution involves, of course, these particular issues as regards power plants, but as all of you who have dealt with power plants, water is not that much of an issue as is air, as a DM plant, the boiler blowdown, the CT blowdown, etc., are all manageable in today's world as we move to zero discharge concept. Just a few major areas of impacts that thermal power plants have on the environment. The land environment certainly gets disturbed. If it does, particularly for greenfield projects, then up comes rehabilitation and resettlement issues, which I think is probably, in my book at least, takes the highest parameter importance value of all cardinal environmental parameters. Because of the simple reason, here you're dealing with humans. It's as simple as that. I know of cases in large areas of development of power where one family has been evicted 6 times. So poor has been the R&R plan. We produce about 100 million tons of fly ash. We all know that we now have 100% utilization to be done in 4 years, as is the MOEF requirement. But I think all of you would agree we are far, far away from it. And if you ask me, this probably is the single most environmental problem that we face, at least in India today. With, as I said, reality facing us, coal and its 45% ash and the fly ash it produces. Mr. Mukherjee just mentioned that we are very adept in making policies, but very inept at implementing them. This probably is one such area. I mentioned, I will not go much into the mining part of it, the coal part of it, because that I would like to stick to my topic of mitigation options and power generation. But just a few slides because they are very interlinked. Obviously, blending of coal and beneficiation of coal leads to certain amount of cleaning of coal, as was mentioned again a while ago, that it's difficult. Clean coal is not the term to be used, but non-dirty coal or lower dirty coal is a better term to be used. I accept it, but then this is some of the ways in which you can make the coal a little less dirty. Skip this. Details of blending of coal. I think many of you are familiar with this. Beneficiation, one step higher. small little diagram of showing how we break the mineral matter in coal and effect breakage. Very simple. Advantages of coal beneficiation, we all know. It cleans up the gas. It cuts on solid waste disposal, obviously, because you've cleaned up the coal to an extent. Let's go into see add-on type mitigative measures and how they work out. As I had mentioned earlier, we have particulate emission controls, and the three types are mentioned here. You're all aware, and we are very happy to state, that although our standard for particulate emissions for power plants today is 150 milligram per normal meter cubed, ESPs are being designed today which can bring it down Y to 100 to even 50 milligram per normal meter cubed. If you ask, and that is particularly true for supercritical thermal power plants, and if you ask a Japanese, because I made this mistake of asking, going out of there is just steam and nothing else. So we are getting there. That was Japan. But today, our properly functioning power plant with a 275-meter tall stack, if you look up, you will probably find almost no emissions to the naked eye. SO2 emissions, we don't worry too much about this. Why? Because the sulfur of our coal content is very low, and our stipulation of the stack height makes dispersal a major issue. So we don't need this very much today, unless you're importing coal, the whole hog, from places like Australia or South Africa, where the sulfur content is 1.5 to 2%. In our coal, it's no longer a problem. For NOx, we have a lot of interventions here leading to low NOx burners, where again we can control NOx emissions to less than 400 ppm or 750 milligram per normal meter cubed, which is the World Bank standard. The various factors that affect the precipitator performance, of course, these are all taken into account while designing them. These are details of the same. I said it would be technical, but I'm trying not to be ultra technical. Fabric filters. The second type of equipments for additive mitigation measures for particulates, and you have pulse jet clean filters, shaker clean filters, and reverse flow clean filters, all of which have very high efficiencies. These are the various types of fibers that are used today in India for fabrics. The very small percentages of trace elements that escape through the fabric filters. You will probably see here that fabric filters in this particular category is much more efficient than the ESPs in controlling of these elements. Qualitative presentation here of the advantages and disadvantages, the pros and cons between fabric filters and Venturi scrubbers. You will see basically that both are, the choice is up to you, but both have good efficiencies and good performances. SOx. Let's go straight to, if you have SOx, I only know of 1 or 2 power plants today which have installed FGD systems, the flue gas desulfurization plants. I only know about 1 or 2, not more than that, because I said it's not required in India at the moment. These are the different types of FGD systems you have. But obviously, what MOEF today specifies is that you keep a space right behind your stacks or your chimneys, adequate space provision for retrofitting of flue gas desulfurization systems. If in the future the area or the zone or witnesses more development and the ambient levels of SO2 go above the threshold limits, you can use FGDs, but remember, an FGD system will cost you 20% almost of the cost of a power plant, which again gets plowed back to the consumer. Simple. This is how we basically control SO2s through stack heights. And remember that no power plant is allowed, however small it may be, 1 megawatt, 2 megawatt, etc., with a stack height of less than 30 meters. That's the minimum. NOx emission controls, the various types of NOx emission controls that are available today, primary control measures, that is at-source controls and secondary control systems, basically by controlling your air-to-fuel ratio and so on and so forth. And of course, we have low NOx burners today for both coal and gas-based power plants. And that's the kind of efficiencies we are looking at. I told you just a while ago that we are very much in the range, at least in this range. The World Bank standard is 400 ppm, and we have technologies today to reduce it to less than 750 milligram per normal meter cubed. That is equivalent to 400 ppm. I think this I'll skip because greenhouse gases we have discussed a lot and in the earlier sessions. And if I open this up, I'll probably run till 6 p.m. straight away myself, which is also not desirable, Mr. Mukherjee. Clean coal technologies. I'm happy Mr. Mukherjee is not here. He would have asked me to change this to, what did he say? Not dirty coal technologies. Right. This again, you know, he had mentioned, without looking at the slide, we have moved from PF combustion today to supercritical. CFBCs have infiltrated us. We'll probably go into ultra supercritical. The normal combustion, PF combustion, gives a thermal efficiency of 37%. The supercritical is at least plus 4% more than that, with obviously enhanced environmental parameters. PFBC and IGCC, of course, you will see costs attached to that, are probably lies much ahead of us. That's exactly what I just mentioned. We have gone into this today, but we are yet to get into PFBCs. And IGCC is probably the last thing. That is probably what we might be thinking of in the year 2030. That's what I can see in front of me. Not doing away with coal, but probably moving to a system as IGCC in 2 decades' time. Again, I stress, let's be realistic, let's be practical. Some just ballpark costs, and this is entirely of NOx control. As you can see, the higher that you get into technology, obviously the costs go high. The SCR technique and the non-CR techniques have the highest costs. Those are in dollars per tons of NOx removed. SOx emissions, and you can see the enhanced costs of various types of FGD systems. The different types of costs for clean coal technologies. This is just a qualitative matrix of, various types of mitigation options. Environmental performance of principal mitigation options. You can see how we are moving and how various types of systems, have. The more you go, look at IGCC, it's got 3, 3, 3 across the line, instead of PF combustion, which is almost zeros across the line. So we are somewhere right now still in the first 2 columns. And as I said, hopefully, over the next 2 decades, we'll try and come down this particular column from here to somewhere, at least here, if not wholly here. Because the more advanced technologies you get, the more at-source controls you have, and your quantitative environmental matrix improves constantly. These are, again, cost figures of various types of mitigation options. These are in dollars, again per ton of pollutant removed. And finally, environmental performance and cost of different kinds of technologies. Obviously, you will find, again, the costs of things like PFBC and IGCC way more than technologies. Thank you very much. Thank you. I hope I was technical and not ultra-technical.
Thank you, Mr. Mukherjee, and thank you, Mr. Ghosh, for such an informative presentation. And a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first congratulate the Bengal Chambers for organizing such a massive event on energy and sustainability and giving us the opportunity for making a presentation on the renewable energy, the various options, the technology, and the cost economics in India. So in this presentation, we are going to start the presentation with a brief about the power market scenario in India. We will discuss about the key highlights of the renewable energy development in India, the various policy level interventions or the policy push which is shaping the renewable energy development in India, the different type of technologies that we are having presently in India, and the cost economics. So we start with the power market scenario. As we all are aware, as we have covered in the last few discussions also, the Indian power market is predominantly dominated by fossil fuel based power generation, mostly with coal. It accounts for almost 55% of the total power generation. As compared to that, renewable energy even today accounts for only 11% of the total 170 gigawatt of installed capacity. But at the same point of time, we understand that the Indian power sector has been recording a tremendous growth over the last few years, considering the economic growth. The power demand has consistently increased by a CAGR of around 6.7%. And to match up with this demand, the generation capacity has also expanded many folds. And this trend is expected to continue in the near-term future. Even the 12th plan, which is between 2012 to 2017, it is expected that the power generation capacity is going to increase by another 64,000 megawatt. But at the same point of time, the power sector has been facing many challenges. Challenges in terms of fuel sourcing or fuel constraint, challenges in terms of the fuel cost because of the rupee-dollar ratio, the imported coal cost has been significantly increasing. We have challenges in terms of getting regulatory approvals because nowadays the approvals are getting more and more stringent. We have challenges in terms of land acquisition. We have limitations in terms of domestic EPC players in the power market. We have water-related issues, water scarcity. There was a World Bank report which clearly dominates that the thermal power capacity